Hi everyone, welcome back to Christian's Conversations with. In the next few minutes, you're going to see the highlights from my interview with Sarah Weiner, a powerhouse in talent acquisition with over 6 years of full cycle recruiting experience. From tech to manufacturing, internships to leadership roles, she's done it all, both in house and on the agency side. In the highlights, you're going to see her perspective as far as being a recruiter in today's market, as well as looking for a more permanent role for herself. I found this a very interesting conversation, and I know you will too. If you'd like to see the full interview, please check out my YouTube and Spotify site under Christian Conversations with. Thanks, and have a great day. With job alerts, which I think are awesome, can you have too many, do you think?
Yes, I've definitely turned some off. There are better sources than others. There's one called, I think it's Aura. I don't know that I've gotten a single job that actually matches what I put into the search. I will get things from all over the country, even though, I don't live in Texas. I don't live in California. I'm in Wisconsin. I'm actually in a fairly rural part of Wisconsin, so remote is really best for me. Otherwise, I likely have 90-minute or more commute to an office, which I don't feel is fair to a candidate either, because then I feel I'm a worse employee saying I'm only working my 40 hours and I'm not available for interviews outside of standard business hours. Where right now I prefer to make myself available so that a working candidate could also get on my calendar without altering their workday. So, yes, you can have too many, but I think more so in the sense of just not a good quality output, not saying that you're seeing too many jobs necessarily.
One of the things I noticed from your posts is your willingness to help people, and that's the great part about like having these conversations that I've had so far is everyone that out there is willing to help however we can. Why is that important to you that to do that for people?
Maybe it's the way I was raised, I'm not sure, but I've always believed if you see something that's wrong, speak up. If you can lend a hand, do so, even if it's, something small like opening a door for somebody at the grocery store. So I just kind of have always believed in giving back and doing whatever I can for others. I also think in this job market, especially, it's like you said, just really hard to be seen. So if there's anything we can do to help the next person, I'm happy to do that. There's also a ton of myths surrounding talent acquisition. What ATSs do and don't do, what is AI, what is a human. So I kind of just want to make the whole process a little more friendly. And, pulling back that veil can sometimes help do that. I know I've given walkthroughs on, what we see in an ATS or how to make an application quicker. A lot of people hate Workday. Workday happens to be my favorite ATS I have ever worked in. So it's always a little disheartening to hear somebody, kind of piling onto the I hate work day train. But one of the biggest gripes I always hear about that is it takes me 30 minutes to apply. I've never taken more than 2 or 3 minutes to apply to any workday job. So I've been able to give people some behind the scenes looks at how to make that process faster. The EEO surveys are also another thing that I hear a lot of people questioning. Do we see if somebody is male or female, if they have a disability, if they're a veteran? No company I've ever worked at has revealed those surveys to me. I don't believe any company is telling their talent acquisition team the answers to that. I think it's more a demographic survey that HR can pull to show, okay, well, we have this percent of applicants from this bucket, this from this bucket, not to prevent someone from getting a job.
Because I noticed the last two positions you've taken have been more of a seasonal position. I don't know if it's a contracted position. And I see more and more positions kind of going into that, what they call fractional type situation. How does that, because I've never done it. I worked at a company for 18 years. Prior to that was like almost 10. So it's like I kind of stayed where that is. But I'm actually looking at roles now similar to those. So is that, I mean, obviously there's benefits to it. What do you think those might be from a contract or a seasonal situation that might be something somebody should look
Yes.
at?
For me, it provided immediate relief, right? So I'd rather be working than sitting home doing nothing. Unemployment where I live is kind of a joke. If you make over $40,000 a year, you max it out, and that's $314 a week. I don't know anyone who can live off of $314 a week. So even a contract role, it may not pay what I was making permanently, and obviously there's no benefits, but it's keeping my skills current. It's giving me a sense of accomplishment for the day and allowing me to still have that human connection. So I'd encourage people to look for contract work while you're looking for your permanent job. I've taken roles, I think I've had two that were contract to hire, and it's a great way to kind of test out a new industry or an employer, see if there's a mutual fit there to move forward permanently. But even just these contract roles, a lot of the time I've been able to gain experience doing something I haven't necessarily done before. So one role was working more in high volume manufacturing. Another role that I took was in the tech space, which I've never worked on some of the roles that I've been working on over there. So definitely learning kind of a new language almost in that space. And then a third contract that I have is working with leadership positions, which have truthfully always been some of my favorite, but never something that carried a full rec load. So they'd be kind of sprinkled in, whereas now that's my primary focus.
What advice would you give to somebody? So obviously, certain positions will tell you like, okay, who the talent person is, when you apply for it. Others not. So then you basically will find company A and you'll go down trying to figure out who might be, involved in that. What advice would you give somebody looking? Is it okay like to LinkedIn message them, try to find email addresses, or what recommendations would you possibly give?
Yes, I think it's okay to send LinkedIn messages. Honestly, I had a woman who did that. She applied to a role. I already had the number of interviews set that I thought I was going to need to find a candidate. She just kind of flagged her interest to me, said, I have applied. This is, kind of why I feel I'm a good fit. And I pulled up her resume and she was a good fit. So I added another interview to my calendar. She was not successful in getting the job, but she did make it through to the final round of interviews. Had she not sent me that message, I would have never even screened her because I thought I was done. So I definitely would encourage people to reach out after applying. Just flag the fact that you did, why you think you're a good fit. And most recruiters, I feel, would have the same response that I have and pull up the application and look. Um, assuming they see that message. I know a lot of them do go unread and unseen, so I can't speak to that. Some recruiters may be getting more messages than I am, and that could be part of why. But as far as like finding outside contact information, totally cool with it as long as it's a work email. Yeah. I have gotten phone calls on my personal phone. I have had people find my parents' phone number and call their home. Those types of things are just not okay. Honestly, that generally probably gets you blocked in the system from ever applying again.
So the fact that you look for talent for a living and then are looking more for a permanent role for yourself, how do you, in a sense, split your time, to think one way instead of the other way for yourself? Like, how do you make a difference for yourself to make this process, I wouldn't say easier, more doable in a sense?
Luckily, I am a morning person, so I am usually up somewhere between 4:30 and 5 in the morning, and I will look for roles on LinkedIn for myself and kind of while I'm still laying in bed scrolling, save the ones that I know I want to apply to for that day. And then I can do that on a lunch break or after work, before work. I also, being in talent acquisition, am on LinkedIn probably more than your average person. I'm having conversations throughout the day, both with candidates for the roles I'm filling, as well as people reaching out to me about potential roles and me trying to network with hiring leaders for the roles that I've applied to. And then I also set alerts. If there's a company I'm really interested in, I will set a job alert. I have one with Thermo Fisher because I had a conversation with some of their hiring team earlier in the year regarding a role as a sourcer there. And we just kind of determined true talent acquisition is a better fit for me than simply sourcing. So I have an hourly alert. Every hour, I get an email from their system saying what jobs are open. That way, as soon as something in talent acquisition opens, I can reach back out to the people I interviewed with and, express that I am still interested in keeping my eye on their company.